Okay, well, I'm going to show you how to tweak your Windows XP computer so that it will boot up and run faster. So what we want to do here is hit the Start button, go to Run, and then we're going to be typing in msconfig, msconfig, and then we're going to hit OK. Okay, and then we're going to go over to the Services tab, and what we're going to be doing here is just looking through the services. Okay, now like indexing services. What this does is it searches your computer, I think for like commonly used programs or whatever, and it indexes them, and it's just kind of like a cache, basically. You can definitely uncheck that if you don't search very often. If you do want to search for a file, you can always go to Start Search and search for whatever program you want. It'll just take longer if you don't have indexing on. Computer browser, definitely leave that on. Audio, I mean Windows Audio, you probably want to leave that on. So what I would do is definitely do not disable something that you're not sure of. So local disk manager, leave that on. DHCP client, well, if you connect to the internet, you're probably using DHCP. Leave that on. Let me see here. Oh, fast user switching. Now this does not necessarily need to be on, and you can see right now it's stopped, but you can definitely uncheck that if you're the only user who uses this machine. If you have multiple users using this machine, then decide, do you ever go to Start, and then when you hit log off, do you ever hit switch user, or do you just hit log off and log you off? Switch user keeps the person logged in, but you can only use one at a time. So if you always hit log off, you never use the switch user button, you can uncheck that, and there's one thing you can save. Let's see here. I mean, help and support. Let's see here. Net meeting, remote desktop sharing. If you don't know what this is, you probably don't use it. If you ever, let's say, connect to your work computer at home, or vice versa, if you connect to your home computer, then you probably want to leave this checked. If you don't do any of that stuff, you're just a low-end user, go ahead and uncheck that. That's something else you can uncheck. CD-ROM burning services. Do you ever burn a CD using Windows XP? Have you ever took files and copied any files and burned them onto a CD? If you don't, you can go ahead and disable that. There are definitely other free programs out there that can do the same thing. Okay, let's just look through these here. I mean, there might be more there might be some that I'm missing that you could even certainly get rid of. Remote desktop help session manager. Do you ever use remote desktop? Do you ever control a computer remotely? Well, most people probably don't. You can probably go ahead and disable that. QoS RSVP. Okay. Most people don't use that. The only thing is if you're like an online gamer or something like that, or let's say if you're using the Magic Jack, some time-sensitive activities, most web browsing traffic and YouTube watching, you don't need QoS. You only need QoS if you're doing real-time, like online gaming. Okay, here's another one. Windows Firewall and Internet connection sharing. If you already have, let's say, a firewall, like let's say if you for example, if you have Comcast, and if you have Norton, if you have Norton that comes with Comcast, you can certainly turn that off because Norton has its own firewall, and that will help your computer. And you can see it's running, so that will certainly help your computer run faster. Smart cards. Well, do you ever actually take a card and swipe it and try to log in with something? Well, most people probably don't. That's something you can definitely uncheck. Performance logs and alerts. I mean, that's just monitoring your computer, but that also does take some extra. Okay, telephony. That's something you can uncheck. Do you use dial-up? No. If you're on a broadband connection, DSL cable or cellular, you probably don't need telephony, unless you have a different situation. Terminal services. That's something you could most likely uncheck. That again is for remotely controlling your computer. Terminal services. Universal plug-and-play host. What this does is, you know how you connected, say, a wireless, or not a wireless, but it could be a wireless or a wired mouse, corded mouse. You plug in your mouse and it works, right? You don't have to do anything else. Well, if you don't have, I'm sorry. First, let me explain this. Universal plug and play does that same thing over a network. So let's say if you only have one computer in your house and you don't have any other network devices on your home network, uncheck it. You don't need it. Stopped here anyway. Uninterruptible power supply. Do you have a battery backup? When the power goes out, does your computer rely on a battery backup? If not, uncheck it. Volume shadow copy. That's another one. Well, it's stopped anyway, but that's another one you could probably uncheck. Let's see here. Windows time, I would leave that. Windows remote management. Yeah, I believe that's something. It's also for. Okay, yeah, Windows search, automatic updates. Those have absolutely got to be there. Security center, very important. Wireless serial configuration. Does your computer hook up to a wireless network? If not, uncheck it. If it's just a desktop, uncheck that. And then you should be good to go. Let me just look through these real quick to see if I missed anything. Don't see anything. Remote Access Auto Connection Manager. Well, that one you can probably check. But just be very, very careful what you uncheck. Print spooler. Well, if you never use a printer, I suppose you could uncheck that. You know, again, performance logs and alerts can be unchecked. You know, it's not crucial. It just gives you information if something's failing. But I mean, if your computer's running good, I guess you could take the chance of not looking at a log. So there's just a few things you can uncheck and just okay, now the startup tab. The startup tab, make sure you're very, very careful. Like Adobe, we don't need Adobe up. It might help to have Adobe running at startup. Google Toolbar. Okay, now this is, remember, these are all applications. These are services. These are applications. None of these need to be running. So just make sure that you do not disable your antivirus. Okay, like MSN Messenger, that does not need to be ran. Windows search. I mean, you can just again make sure you're not disabling your antivirus. And once you do that, you just hit OK and restart. And that takes care of it. When you boot the computer up, you should be running a faster computer.